The first time the phone rang, it was midnight. I had just finished pressing it after downloading a few apps. It was a fairly used iPhone I had bought at Computer Village that afternoon. And honestly, I couldn't believe I finally owned one. I stared at it with pride as though it had changed my destiny overnight. Then the call came. The number was hidden. My stomach tightened, but curiosity made me swipe to answer. Hello? My voice was unsure. At first, silence. Then a deep, shaky voice said, Tunde, we warned you. This is your last chance. Before I could reply, the line went dead. I froze. My name wasn't Tunde. Who was Tunde? And what kind of warning was that? For minutes, I sat in the dark, staring at the glowing screen. My joy for the new phone slowly turning into fear. By morning, I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was a wrong number. Lagos is full of madness. But then the text started. Meet us tonight. Same place. Don't run. You can't escape forever. My hands shook as I read them. The phone wasn't meant for me. Whoever owned it before me wasn't just anybody. They had enemies. Dangerous ones. I thought of taking the phone back to Computer Village. But who refunds a used phone? And even if they did, what if those people were already tracking it? That evening, another call came. This time I didn't answer, but a voicemail dropped. When I played it, my blood ran cold. It was the sound of someone crying, begging, and a voice in the background saying, if today doesn't show up, this will be you next. I dropped the phone like it was fire. I couldn't sleep that night. The phone sat on my desk like a cursed object. Its screen lighting up every few minutes with calls from hidden numbers. I turned it off, but even in the silence, my mind raced. Who was Tunde? And what had he done to attract this kind of danger? By morning, I gathered courage and went back to Computer Village. The man who sold it to me, a sharp-eyed trader with tribal marks, looked irritated when I explained. Guy, phone na phone, he said, waving me off. If you no want, go sell am somewhere else, but no dey bring wahala for here. Something about his tone made my chest tighten. He knew more than he was saying, but he wasn't going to tell me. I walked away, the phone heavy in my pocket. That evening, curiosity got the better of me. I searched through the old photo gallery, the notes, the hidden files. Buried in a folder was a video. When I played it, my hands went cold. It was a man, well-dressed, young, confident, sitting in a car speaking into the camera. If anything happens to me, he said, his voice dating nervously. Know that it was because I refused to keep quiet about them. The video ended abruptly. That man's name, I realized, was Tunde. By now, I was in too deep. Every part of me screamed to throw the phone away. But another part whispered, this is bigger than you. Maybe you were meant to find this. That night, the phone rang again. This time I answered. Finally, the voice on the other end hissed, Tunde, you think you can hide forever? I am not Tunde, I blurted out. I just bought this phone. There was silence, then low laughter. If you are not Tunde, then you are holding his secrets, and that means you are next. The call ended. My whole body trembled. I had two choices now. Get rid of the phone and pretend none of this happened. Or follow the trail, find out who Tunde really was and why his enemies were haunting him. As I lay in the dark, the phone buzzing again and again, I realized something. Sometimes trouble doesn't knock on your door. It calls you directly. By morning, fear had worn into exhaustion. I couldn't keep running from unanswered calls and threats. I needed answers. So I started with the SIM card. I visited a small kiosk where a woman did SIM registrations. She was reluctant at first, but when I slipped her some money, she typed the number into her system. Her brows furrowed. This line, it belongs to one Tunde Adeyemi. Do you have an address? I asked, my heart pounding. She hesitated. Be careful, she whispered, sliding a slip of paper towards me. Later that afternoon, I followed the address, a quiet compound in Surulere. The gate was locked, the windows dusty, like no one had lived there in months. I asked the neighbors, and the answer chilled me. Ah, Tunde, that boy was a banker. Fine boy. But one day, he disappeared. Nobody has seen him since. Disappeared. I pressed. They nodded, lowering their voices. Rumor is he got into wahala with some people. Powerful people. I left the street with a knot in my stomach. The phone wasn't just a random gadget. It was a breadcrumb trail into the life of a man who had vanished. That evening, another call came in. This time, instead of silence, I heard an address whispered through the static. Meet us at the warehouse in Apapa midnight. Come alone. I should have ignored it. Any sane person would. But something about today's video haunted me. If anything happens to me, it is before I refuse to keep quiet about them. I felt like I owed him. Or maybe I was just too curious for my own good. At midnight, I found myself outside a rusted warehouse in Apapa. The air smelled of salt and oil from my pot. My palms sweated as I stepped inside, clutching the phone like a lifeline. Voice echoed in the dark. Men sat in a circle, their faces shadowed. One of them turned when I entered, his eyes narrowing. You are not Tunde, he said finally. My throat went dry. I just bought his phone. The man exchanged looks. One of them chuckled, a sound that made my blood run cold. Then maybe you finish what he started. And just like that, I realized I wasn't just holding today's phone. I was holding his unfinished battle. The man in the warehouse circled me like wolves. One slammed his fist on the table, making me flinch. Do you know what you are carrying? Do you? The leader asked, his voice low and dangerous. I shook my head, clutching the phone. He smirked and leaned forward. Today was a banker, yes, but it wasn't just moving salaries and loans. He stumbled on something he shouldn't have. Proof that this country's so-called leaders have been laundering money through offshore accounts. Billions. My chest tightened, and he recorded it. More than recorded, the man said. He stored it here. He tapped the phone on my hand. Suddenly, everything makes sense. The midnight calls, the threats, the missing groom's chair of his life. Tunde hadn't just vanished. He had been silenced. Now they thought I was his replacement. That night I couldn't breathe. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to throw the phone into the lagoon and forget I ever touched it. But then I remembered Tunde's face in that video, his voice trembling. If anything happened to me, it's because I refused to keep quiet about them. If I ran, I'll just be another coward in a city full of them. If I stayed silent, Tunde's fight would die with him. So I made a decision. I copied every file on the phone, videos, documents, numbers. I didn't even understand half of them, but I knew enough to see they could bomb powerful men to ashes. By dawn, I was shaking as I sent the file anonymously to the journalist I trusted. Then with a deep breath, I smashed the SIM card into pieces and dumped the phone into the ocean. For days, I waited for a knock on my door, for a shadow to drag me away. But instead, Headlines exploded across the country. Secret leak exposed top officials in billions scandal. The nations raged. Protests broke out. And somewhere deep inside me, I knew today's voice hadn't been lost. It had simply found a new mouth. Sometimes, destiny doesn't knock politely. It barges in, shoves responsibility in your hands, and dares you to act. In a world of silence and fear, the bravest thing you can do is to speak, even if it isn't your battle to start with. Week passed. The story dominated the news. Politicians denying, protesters marching, journalists dissecting every file. But for me, life didn't return to normal. Some nights I woke up to the sound of phantom ringing, my heart racing, reaching for a phone that was no longer there. I avoided crowded places, always glancing over my shoulder. Once I thought I saw a black SUV trailing me, but it disappeared into the night. Still, deep inside, I knew I had done the right thing. One evening, while walking home, I passed by a group of university students gathered around a kiosk. They were discussing the scandal, their eyes bright with anger and hope. This country feels change. One of them said, people just need courage like that Tunde guy. I paused, my chest tightening. They didn't know Tunde was gone. They didn't know the file had passed through my trembling hands. But maybe that was better. I walked on, the Lagos night bustling with downfalls and generators, carrying a secret heavier than gold. And every time I heard the phone ring in the distance, my heart skipped. Not in fear, but in reminder. Because some calls are not mistakes. Some calls are destiny. Not everybody inherits a curse. Sometimes it is a touch, passed to you to light the darkness others were too afraid to face. Tell me what you learned in the comment section and subscribe for more of this.